Hello, dear listeners. If you're new here, we're Margin Mavens, and we are obsessed with writing in our books and sharing our thoughts with you guys. In this episode, we are talking about The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. Dr. Moreau is working hard on his experiments that entails mixing humans with animals and hoping for better results. We meet Carlota, daughter of the doctor, and as the doctor's findings begin to plateau, things come to light and everything changes. All right, this
Wh-
one was a little bit of a wild ride.
Yeah. What did you think? This was a reread for me. So, what did you think since this is your first interaction?
I mean, I walked into it blind because I didn't really know any of the lore behind the Doctor. Because I know that it's supposed to be a retelling of like an
The
original
island,
piece.
the island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah, and
Yes.
so I've never read that. Didn't even know that thing existed. Um, it wasn't my favorite. I don't think I scored it harshly because I still enjoyed it because it's still Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Um, but it was missing. I don't want to just say romance because I think it was more than that.
I was gonna say it's the romance. That's what you love. You
Yeah, I
love
rated
that.
it 4 stars still, so it was still something that I enjoyed. Um, but I think Carlota really frustrated me as the protagonist
Mhm.
because for a while she felt very, like, one-dimensional to me. You
Mhm.
know, she was very set in her ways, her dad could do no wrong, and she
Mhm.
starts to kinda grow from that, which I appreciated. But even then, I guess it's really a story of, like, how sheltered people can easily be, like, persuaded and that she's got that, like, gullibleness to her that
Mhm.
obviously is not my cup of tea. Um, I think she was made more interesting once we figured out that she was one of the hybrids,
Yeah. She
because
was
then it
just
all kind of
only successful.
yeah, because then it started to make more sense, and I liked that it wasn't as simple as, like, him viewing her as an experiment, you
Mhm.
know? He did love
Right.
her, we see that through his actions later on. I really appreciated kind of the dichotomy of, like, "Oh, I want to replicate this,"
Mhm.
right? But she was successful because of, you know, the human woman, but that's not something that I wanna continue doing and stuff like that, and so that was
Right.
kinda cool.
But it brings up a question. Did he love her because she was his daughter, or did he love her because she was the successful product of his grand idea?
"Por qué no las dos?" You know? I think I don't know, I didn't really like the Doctor too much as a character, he obviously grew
I
on
don't think you're
me.
supposed to,
Yeah, I
really.
think he, like, grew on me kind of on his deathbed, and, like, the choices that he made to ensure her survival were kinda cool.
Mhm.
Um, the see, even as, like, a romance sucker, right? I don't necessarily think I wanted the romance
No. Mm-mm.
between them, right? And so, like, that it was just missing a romance that I enjoyed. Because even with Eduardo, I was like, "I don't really enjoy you," even when we're supposed to somewhat think that he's cool.
Never thought he was cool.
You know, like, he's willing to give her this land, like, that was kinda cool of him. But then he obviously, like
He changed his tune real quick when he realized she was a hybrid, though.
yeah, I think it's funny because he was always shown as, like, the softer of him and, like, the cousin and stuff, so he,
Mhm.
like, allowed her to speak her mind, which she liked, and all of these things, but it definitely shows that he was kinda just, like, playing his hand.
Right.
Um, because once we find out that she is a hybrid and obviously he's like, "I can't be with a hybrid," he starts being really toxic and just really terrible. And there's a specific scene that I remember where he is like talking to her and they're arguing and she yells at him and he like loses his mind a little bit and he's
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry for yelling, but you can never speak to me like that again. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
dude, you
Like,
can't have it both ways.
no. Yeah. You
You
can't.
can't want her to be opinionated and then also scold her when she's opinionated. And so he, I think, was the true villain of the story. He really freaked me out from, I guess, like a men like this still exist point of view. Um, and so that was no bueno. I think
Mhm.
the one-sided romance from Montgomery kind of creeped me out a little bit. There was a point where I like even wrote a note, like he met her when she was like 12. He was already like an adult, like an adult
Mhm.
adult when they met, so for that subplot on his side, I was like, I'm okay. And then I think the end of the book kind of leaves it open to the idea that he comes back and they all are like a family again.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that means that there's like the possibility of that romance happening or something, but
No. The
it
one thing I liked is that she was very clearly like, I will never feel for you that way.
yeah.
Like, I never went like the open-ended like nature of the end of the story like never ever gave me the impression that if he did come back that they would
Mhm.
just like sort of like fall into this like relationship. Like that was
Mhm.
never something that she was going to believe in. The story very much strikes me as more of like a tale of like the quote romance in it
Mhm.
is a lot like Frozen's, point where love comes in many different forms, and I think it's more about the love between
Yeah, I also
Carlota
think it's
and
like
Lupe.
mhm. Love Lupe. I also think it's a lot of like proximity.
Yeah.
Like he was dealing with his like ex-wife
Failed
trauma,
marriage, yeah. His gambling
and
and
she
alcohol
it's not like she
addiction.
really saw any men that weren't her father or hybrids.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And then the one experience she does have
it's
does not
terrible.
go well.
Yeah, it is absolutely terrible. Yeah, so let's dig into Lupe for a second. I love her. I love everybody needs a Lupe in their life, not necessarily obviously a hybrid, but that'd be cool, I guess. But somebody that's like willing to tell you even when they love you that like you're messing up,
Yeah.
or you're not seeing things clearly because you're biased or something like that. I really
Mhm,
appreciated what she gave to the story. I really like that she
mhm,
was very much like I want to get out of here. But when it came to Carlota's like success and living, Lupe
mhm.
was like, okay, I will continuously come back here if it means that she gets to get out alive. And then I do like that they all end up together, sort of.
Yes.
Well, Lupe and her. And then I do believe that the other hybrids make it
Oh,
back.
yeah. They made it out. Like,
Yeah.
I firmly believe.
Um and so I really appreciated that like relationship. I liked the rebellion dude.
Juan Kumo Kumus? Kumux?
Yeah.
Kum
I like
I
him.
think
I
it's
like the
Kumus.
fact that Lupe and the maid, cook, all of the things
Ramona.
are kind of like working with him on the DL.
Mhm,
So I appreciated that. Um I liked that he was like, "Oh, I'm just a simple lieutenant." And then Montgomery's like, "That is a lie. You are lying to me."
mhm,
And I think overall the book was really fun. I liked the like science fictiony vibes of it, but I do think it got an unfair read through from me because then we immediately read Mexican
Mexican
Gothic right
Gothic.
after.
Yeah,
And
it's
it
really
and it
hard.
and it's really hard to view them at the same
Yeah,
time
yeah.
because there's just something woven into the pages of Mexican Gothic that made
Yeah,
me
it's
happy.
shrooms.
It's just
It's
shrooms. There's
it's the
shrooms in the
shrooms.
actual pages, and that's the real problem she doesn't talk about. Um, but yeah, I think Gosh, I don't wanna make it sound like I'm, like, such a hardcore romance girly because I do like books that don't have romance, but I think because I had read Silver Nitrate before this, I think I kinda went into it anticipating some sort of romance subplot,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
so when I didn't really get it and the ones that I was getting sucked,
I will say,
it just was a downer.
with a few more Silvia Moreno-Garcia books under my belt, knowing what I know that she's capable of writing with romance, I'm glad there was no romance in this book.
Yes. But, yeah.
Like, love Silver Nitrate, love Mexican Gothic, loved the underlying, not main romance plot in both of those. Um, also appreciate that neither of those romances went the way that some of her other novels have. And that's all I will say, because I want you
Yeah,
to read the rest of her novels,
that's
and
fair.
I don't want to spoil you away.
I just yeah, I liked Montgomery becoming, like, a pseudo, like, older brother
Yes.
to all of the hybrids. I did like his character a lot. I think he was incredibly flawed, and he was self-aware enough to realize he was flawed.
Oh, he knew he was a giant piece of crap, and I
Yeah,
appreciate that about him.
and I like that when Carlota is, like, spiraling and tries to sleep with him, he's like, "No,
Yeah.
we're not doing this because it'll mean a lot more to me, right?" And I
Mhm.
don't like the one-sidedness because once again, she was, like, 12 when they met, and so,
Mhm.
yeah, sure, they had known each other for years at that point, and she was an adult then. Uh, Still wasn't great because you, like, watch this child grow up into, like, a beautiful person, and then you're like, "Yeah, I'm kind of interested in this person." I
Mhm.
also like how messy he was, like, the
Yeah,
scene with the pond or the little
the
and
cenote.
yeah, and he's like, "Oh, you guys wanna go for a walk with her by herself? That's
Absolutely
odd.
not.
I'm gonna go
Yeah.
with you." And then proceeds to, like, get undressed to go
In
swimming.
white pants
Yeah.
to go
I
swimming.
just this messy man. And
He
I
is
appreciate it because he was really spiraling
he
in
is
his
a
own
beautiful
way.
disaster of a man, and he really comes, like, almost full circle at the end, like,
Yeah.
recognizing that he can't just stay with them and protect
Yeah,
them,
he has
like,
to go
he has to go.
yeah, he has to go do his own thing, and then if he comes back, which I do believe he does,
Yeah,
uh,
eventually.
yeah, I think he needs to figure out who he is without the
Alcohol,
outside forces, yeah.
gambling.
Oh, man was messy.
He was traumatized.
Yeah, I mean, like, his ex-wife really sucked, so for the context of that, he was with somebody who really just wanted to live a rich and lavish lifestyle that he could not afford, but he did his best to afford,
Mhm.
which has left him in debt with everybody. The other person that really, really stinks
Hernando?
is that the cousin?
Oh, no. That's the dad. The cousin is,
Oh, well, the dad, yes, Eduardo's dad also is terrible because he is 100% like calling the shots, and you can tell that like he really messed up any potential that his son did have to not be the worst because he really like eggs him on into those like crappier sides of him. But the cousin is really bad because he's meant to be this like
Nate.
pious man.
Isidro?
Yeah. He's meant to be this like pious man, and so that's the big issue that he has with.
Religion, always interrupting everything good.
Yeah, but that's like the big issue he has with like the hybrids and the people of that place is he's like, a lot of this sounds very like pagan and we're not meant to be pagan and and then he like takes it upon himself to kind of be the catalyst of the story because he
Mhm.
decides he's gonna send a letter
Mhm.
um to Hernando and tell him like, hey, your son's getting married to like
Yeah. To this
Carlota over here.
yeah.
And so Hernando comes in and goes, absolutely not. She is
Yeah.
nothing, cannot be one of us, ever one of us, right? And then that really is the catalyst that shifts the rest of the story.
Yeah.
But he really just should like have minded his business, you know, because he wouldn't have ended up dead.
And this, dear listeners,
Is why you mind your business.
yes, minding your business is free.
And also like it wasn't as though Eduardo was like 18. You know, Eduardo was a grown
Yeah.
man,
He was in his
capable
20s.
to decide who he
Yeah.
was going to marry. Didn't like him, not sympathizing with him, but his cousin had no real like there's one thing to be like, "Oh, I'm worried about him," but it's another thing to be like, "I'm going to tell your dad on you because he's going to come in and stop it."
Yeah.
So glad he died. Glad he died the way he did. 10
Amen.
points. I think that I mean, I don't really
It's
have
a
a ton
very
to say.
quick read, so there's
Yeah,
not a
it's
whole lot to discuss, but
yeah, I think it's a fun read. I liked
it's very
it.
fun.
It made
Yes.
me interested in the backstory and the lore of the island of Dr. Moreau. Because I think like that's one thing that Sylvia does really well is she takes elements from pieces that already existed and she makes you want to go back and read those pieces,
Mhm.
which I appreciate. But overall, I gave it 4 stars.
I think
Luckily, I
I
had
also gave
rated
it
it
4 stars.
before I read Mexican Gothic because I think realistically it probably would have gone lower, but it was still a Silvia Moreno-Garcia book. Like I've got
Yeah.
no major
Sh
complaints. It
she
was a
does
fun
no
read.
wrong.
I enjoyed it. But this has been another episode of Margin Mavens. Thank you so much for being here and listening, and we hope to see you in the next one.